Hi. You know, that's what happens when you take institutions like the Electoral Commission to court. When you come to a coffee shop, then the media are after you, and we want to know a few things. So, what are you in court about? Let me start with you, Doc. What are you in court about?
Yes, we're in court simply to have the Act 699, which is also known as the Representation of the People Amendment Act that was passed in 2006, implemented by the Electoral Commission as the Act requires.
What is your locus? How are you able to go to the court to seek this? Is it just that you're a Ghanaian or you're a Ghanaian living abroad?
It is both. It is that we are Ghanaians and we are living abroad, and both have consequences, because being a Ghanaian goes into the Constitution, Section 42, where it says that Ghanaians who are 18 years and older and of sound mind have the right to register and to vote. So that is the essence of being Ghanaian. And being a Ghanaian living abroad then goes into Act 699. That says that the previous exclusion of the broader group of Ghanaians that PNDC Law 284 allowed to be excluded from voting can now vote from where they reside.
Let me come to you, Kofi Koranteng. You're going to have a difficult situation before the court because 14 million people are registered to vote in Ghana, according to the last electoral roll. It might be more this year. There's such a huge job being done domestically by the Electoral Commission. Why should we worry about the few 5%, 2% who are living their own good lives in America and they don't even want to come back to contribute to national development? Why should we worry about them 6 months to election? We have a job to deliver. Why should we be worried about you? If you really want to vote, come down, register, and vote.
Well, a couple of things, and a great question, because we have heard it before. It actually stems into so many other avenues. So let's start with this so we could break it down in all fairness. First of all, we have a constitutional right as Ghanaians for the Electoral Commission to provide this instrument for us to be able to vote. That's one thing. Second thing is, as Ghanaians living abroad, we contribute, this is as per the World Bank, $4.4 billion of, now that also is workable, but $4.4 billion of remittance dollars to the Ghanaian economy. Now, it surprised me when I found out that the money we contribute to the Ghanaian economy is actually more than the entire tax revenue of all Ghanaians, businesses and individuals, which is $4.3 billion. So you have a whole you have a whole demographic of Ghanaians who live outside of Ghana. And the Electoral Commission had totally forgotten about. Now, this is what I want you to picture, of course, with the viewers, anybody who's going to have the privilege to watch this. If this entire mass of Ghanaians outside of Ghana were to be a region in Ghana, one of the 10 regions in Ghana, can you imagine an Electoral Commission saying that, you know what, this is too close to the election, we don't have the money or whatever the excuse is, let us not include this region into the elections of Ghana. It will be havoc in Ghana. Now, so you know, outside of Greater Accra region and Ashanti region, Ghanaians living abroad might be the next biggest constituency.
In terms of numbers or in terms of money?
Well, money, we just made our point with the 4.4 billion.
In terms of numbers?
Numbers and money.
Money might not be part of the consideration, but let's talk numbers.
Exactly.
And you see, whilst you are one constituency in terms of the sociology, in geography, you're about 25 constituencies, because you're in Canada, you're in America, you're in Iceland, you're in Nigeria, you're in Togo, you're in South Africa, you're in Greenland, you're in India, you're in Singapore. So sociology, you're one, but geography, you're several. How do you want us to deal with that?
Well, that's a beautiful thing. I don't know if my chairman
Dr.
wants to go with that before.
He's chairman of what?
He is chairman of the Progressive Alliance Movement.
Oh, that's you guys?
Yes. The Progressive Alliance
Movement. Is it new or is old, Doc?
It's new. It was formed in 2014.
Okay, so the Progressive Alliance is also suing.
Movement.
Progressive
the
Alliance
members of the Progressive
Okay.
Alliance Movement are suing. So Progressive Alliance Movement is the client to Samson Ladi.
I see. Okay.
So 5 members of PAM, Progressive Alliance Movement, are the applicants.
And this Progressive Alliance has people all over the world?
Yes, it has. Most of the members are obviously in New York City because that's where they have.
Oh, that's the citadel of all this conspiracy here. That's a joke, by the way.
Yes. But let's go to the issue of the numbers, okay? By what my colleague said here, that if we say that there are people, the Upper West has grown, the northern region, Ashanti region, and therefore the population has grown. There wasn't too long ago when Ghana's population was 6 million, not even 60 years ago. Now it's almost 5 times that, okay? And what has happened? The Electoral Commission has increased the number of polling stations. Just March, the Electoral Commission announced that they were going to increase polling stations from 26,000 to 29,000 within Ghana, okay, to see to the need and the convenience of voters per CI-12, okay, which specifically says that polling stations shall be situated for the convenience of voters. Okay, so now what are we talking about? You know, we always have to look at the examples of other countries that implement...
sorry, let me just cut this call, sorry.
Yes, that implement overseas voting. And we have at least a dozen in Africa, Senegal, South Africa, to name very, very few. And for those, the votings are done in their missions. Okay, so let's start with that. And as a matter of fact, Act 699 specifically says that the Electoral Commission shall appoint members of the missions to supervise Ghana's mission. There are only 75 Ghana missions abroad. In the whole big United States, there are only 2, Washington, D.C. and New York. So once the implementation is done, we're only talking about 2. And it is the responsibility...
As in 2 polling stations?
Yeah, because I just said, when South Africans vote, okay, wherever they are, they go to either their embassy in Washington, D.C. or their consulate in New York City. And so do people, Senegalese, Namibians, and what
Americans in Ghana vote here at the American
Americans,
embassy. The British here vote at the British
at the British embassy.
Yeah.
So that's the way that the whole world seems to be doing it at their missions. So we are not even talking about adding 3,000 polling stations. We are talking about implementing this at only 75 Ghana missions over the globe. It is an extremely doable thing. Okay, because already, excuse me, Paul, already people at the Ghana missions who work at the Ghana missions per PNDC Law 284 vote. They vote right now, supervised by the Electoral Commission. And you know, as a man in the media, that in the 2012 election, there was some focus over that.
Okay? Overseas voting.
But
it was a big deal in the court.
There was but that was not really talking about the generalized group of Ghanaians living abroad.
Yeah.
It was only the micro group of Ghanaians working in Ghana missions and for international bodies. So then somebody living in Milwaukee, living in Oshkosh and wherever, it is their responsibility. Election goes both ways. When you provide the mechanism, then you have to do voter education and voter registration. So it's also the responsibility of Ghanaians living abroad to take advantage and go to the missions to vote. That's so it is not an onerous thing that we are imposing.
Let me just tell viewers where we are. We are at the Jack D Cafe here in East Legon, where 2 of our people who have sued the Electoral Commission from the Progressive Alliance Movement, PAM. Yes, they have sued at the Supreme Court, and they are asking for an implementation of the Representation of the People's Amendment Act. What happened is that in 2006, the government, through Parliament, amended the Representation of the People's Act, which was a law passed in by the PNDC government, PNDC Law 284 in 1992, to guarantee people voting in elections. As you know, before then, we didn't vote since 1981. What the amendment did was to include in the electoral roll Ghanaians who lived abroad, and the law was to give them a process of registering to be able to vote. The final clause 2 of the law says that the Electoral Commission shall, by constitutional instrument, make regulations to prescribe the modalities for the implementation of this act. So that has not yet been done. So, but that's going to be very crucial in the decision of the court, I guess, because it says this Electoral Commission shall, by constitutional instrument, make regulations to prescribe the modality. So the constitutional instrument, CI, will have to go to Parliament, and Parliament will have to debate it. My concern for my two distinguished guests is whether there's time or not. So we accosted them here at the Jack D Cafe. I think I'd like, can I have a green tea, please? Yeah, and you would like something?
I'd like some ice in my water, please.
And Kofi Koranteng?
Caviar, champagne, a little mousse. Am I allowed?
Indeed you are. Indeed you are.
Well, yeah.
It just shows that
I have a pound
it just shows.
It looks, and I have to say, let me tell you, you have to be here. It's absolutely beautiful. The pastries are looking delicious, and I would love a pound cake to go with that.
All what you've ordered means, Kofi, that you can actually afford a ticket, come to Ghana, register, and just vote here. And stop the noise about all of that. Yeah, sorry. But it'll be interesting to see how the court sort of picks this one up.
Yes.
The other question for you, though, is this law was passed in 2006. Since then, we've had 2 elections.
Yes.
And the so-called regulations by constitutional instrument have not come. Will that not undermine your case? Because if the Electoral Commissioner comes to court and says that, well, to the lordships, there have been logistics difficulties. They have not received the confirmation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the missions will be able to undertake this exercise, that the missions are not seized with the logistics and perhaps the expertise, and the Electoral Commission itself cannot spread itself so thin at this time to offer those expertise at all of these missions, 75 missions across the country. And that's the reason why this has not been implemented. But hopefully it will be in the next election. Well, how would the courts relate to something like that?
Yeah. In every case, somebody has to look at the faith in the answer, right? And we also have to look at the precedents. And we have to look at the efforts. This law has been passed for 10 years. It's been sitting on the books for 10 years. So we have to look at what efforts have been done by the Electoral Commission. As you read, the law specifically said they shall come up with
Oh, that's my green tea?
Yes.
Thank you. No sugar, thanks. Oh, wow, it's brewing.
It's still
Okay.
really green, huh?
Okay, so how do I have it when it's ready? I take it off this way, Lisa? I'll take that off. Okay, so you can go. You can go now. I think it's fine. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay.
Tell me when.
And you ordered something? All of what he said is in a cup? Oh, that's
this
him.
is for him.
Okay,
No,
okay.
Hot chocolate.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you
You
didn't? Okay, you can
I'll
keep
take
it.
Well, you
it. I
can
mean,
have it.
yeah,
You
I'll
have
have it.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
looks so pretty. I have it in there. So
Yeah, cool. So this all happened at the Jack D, isn't it? It's in East Legon. It's near the chiropractic center.
Yes.
And oh wow. Okay, yes.
So,
So,
so the faith of the response has to be weighed by the justices, and of course, I'm not trying to prejudge what would happen. But we will, for our practical purpose, we have to look at what efforts have been done by the EC. And here is something for you. In August 2015, Pam wrote a letter to the EC to welcome the new chair, and also offer a chance for us to dialogue about the implementation of ROPAA. To this date, we haven't received one letter of a response. And at the same time, when we were drafting the letter, we visited the EC's website, and ROPAA was not even listed as a resource. PNDC Law 284 was. Okay? So clearly...
the EC's website.
Yes, the EC's website. We drew their attention to the fact, and recently when they redid their website, everything is gone. Now the PNDC Law 284 is not even there. The point being that we haven't seen any effort to even begin to even identify what it is that the so-called logistics are, what the cost would be. We haven't seen a thing to even begin to respond.
But
so the justices will
May.
have to weigh that.
We're in May right now.
The justices will have to decide that.
But they'll be confronted with a clear, obvious logistic concern. Because if I were EC chair, I would have that concern.
Well, this
is something that requires a bit of time, not at this time.
I just want to say that, I mean, Paul, you are pro. But I mean, nobody has to doubt that when your name is called, it comes with some expectation. We know what you are capable of. And anything that they put to you to do, it's either before they put it to you to do, they know you're going to be able to deliver. And if you can't, for any reason, I'm sure you will let people know who entrust you to something that you were not able to perform as expected. Yeah. And that's all we're saying. Listen, you have had a job for 10 years, Paul, to deliver on for the Ghanaian people. And you haven't even given an excuse as to why you can't do it yet. All we asking is if maybe perhaps we have had a response from the Electoral Commission enlisting why maybe perhaps this cannot be done to this day. Now, our chairman...
That's not nice. So you feel quite ignored?
Very, very much so. I'm at the point where I'm offended.
Yeah, almost.
Now, this is what we want to say so everybody knows and understands. Our chairman sat down with Aferi John before he retired many times. He gave him an opportunity to actually put down a clear path to how ROPAA perhaps could have been implemented. It wasn't done. We wrote letters to Aferi John, then as he mentioned, we sent the last letter to Honorable Charlotte to say August 2015 to give her a kind of like a backdrop of our relationship with Aferi John before she came in, and gave her an opportunity. She didn't respond. Now, you may think it's us. Fair enough. Let's take it further. We were left with no other option than to put this thing through High Court. You have a 21-day look-up period so you could pass remarks when we filed the original writ. EC did not respond.
At the High Court?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. They got a copy of it. They did not respond. And when we sent a letter to them, we copied all their commissioners. I followed. The chairman sent me to come in and acknowledge that Ms. Charlotte to say actually received the letter. I came into her office and it was acknowledged that she received it. All her commissioners got the letter. They didn't respond. And it was evident by their response by not responding to the writ when it was filed. And they expired a 21-day look-back period. So now it's been adjourned to June 7th to give them more time. And it's expected because it's a
so they have
agency.
asked for more time?
Of course.
From the Supreme Court?
Exactly. So this is a habit.
Is the matter before the High Court?
Yeah,
it's a High Court.
The Human Rights Court?
Human Rights Court Division 2.
Okay. So there's a single judge sitting?
That's correct.
At this stage, yeah. All right. Okay.
So it's a habit. Totally unacceptable by the Electoral Commission. They think this is a joke. Obviously, they haven't responded. And this has gotten serious.
There was one concern, and I had a lot of interaction with the bill when it was in Parliament. And there was a particular concern that all the people couldn't answer, but it was said that that concern should not take away the right of people to vote. When we go to vote in Ghana, we're voting for two groups of people. We're voting for a presidential election, in which case the whole country is a single constituency. And therefore, if ROPAA were implemented, you will be part of that single constituency. But we're also voting for 275 members of Parliament. Yes. And that is peculiar to every voter and peculiar to polling stations. So if I turn up at the polling station, I'm given a form to vote, and the parliamentary contest, the form representing the parliamentary contest is pre-printed.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the big question for you, and which was a big question for us then, how do you participate in the parliamentary election?
Okay, again, let's go to the experience of other countries. Most countries limit overseas voting to presidential, okay? And in our suit, one of the clauses, we offer that we are willing to accept the experience of other countries and have overseas voting limited to presidential. There are very few countries like Senegal, Morocco, where overseas voters vote for their own representatives in parliament. I believe in Senegal they have 2, Morocco 1. And that's fine. We are not asking for anything unusual from international standards.
But so you don't want to vote for a parliament?
I didn't say I don't want to.
I mean, you don't mind if you don't.
Right.
You don't mind if you don't. Vote
we are willing to opt out. How about that?
But that sort of undermines the franchise that you be expressing. It does.
Well,
because the franchise is a total franchise. It's a complete franchise of presidential and parliament. But the government systems are going to work like that. So a member of parliament, I elect a member of parliament, and then I elect a president.
Okay.
So
call it this way, Paul, that it could be seen not as a carve-out, but as an implementation process where we are willing to say that to get this implemented rather than not implemented and ignored, let's do the simpler thing that everybody does first.
Those Ghanaians who vote at the embassy, the staff, do they vote parliament?
They vote presidential.
Only?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a
precedent.
A precedent to it. They vote presidential only?
Yes.
They don't vote parliament at all?
No.
Maybe they should give you a piece of paper and then you can write a member of parliament's name that you like.
Well, once again,
add it to the president.
Those are the things that the EC, after the EC will have to come up. Things like who you vote for, to what extent, the instruments of identification are all things the Electoral Commissioner will have to come up with, not us.
I see. So what are the next steps?
Well, we'll find out June 7th. We're hoping that the EC is going to be forthcoming with some remarks when we go back to court June 7th. We actually want to hear EC because somehow I personally think they don't exist. Now, because I've never, except for newspapers.
They do.
But when it comes to Ghanaians living abroad, somehow they don't want to respond.
So you'll be here on 7th of June for that?
We'll have a representative.
You have a representative?
We will have
But Kofi, what are you doing in America? You've been there too long.
Well, exactly my point.
You just come?
But I want to come.
Yeah, please come.
Do you understand how much I love this place?
I can see that.
I love this place with my soul. But you got to understand. You got to understand, Paul. I mean, seriously, and it's not just me. Our whole life. The quality of our lives is predicated on the quality of lives of Ghanaians who live here. Why? Because we join at the belly with our families and friends here in Ghana. So everything that goes on here affects us.
Affects you, yeah.
By default.
So even when we were under Doomsaw, you used to worry about it as well?
Are you kidding me? Go
so
check
you used
my
to phone and say
Western
that,
Union.
Are the lights on today or not?
Of course, because it affects my Western Union transfers.
Okay, it makes it higher.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Listen, I'm more, and we had this conversation, honestly, in New York. He called me and asked me, how much money do I send back home before I even spend money for myself? And I'm like, that's a weird question. I went back no, seriously, we had this conversation on the phone, right? And I said, you know what, you're right. It's a huge priority for me to send money here than it is to take care of myself.
Because I heard Ghanaians were rushing out of the trains and buses in London to get home quickly and phone people before the lights went off.
No. Seriously. Seriously.
Their lives was managed like that, almost as if they were here.
It is. And listen, I don't care what any Ghanaian says, we love Ghana. And we want to come back so much. So, and this is also where I want to make a clarification. It's not that we are saying that we have any better ideas. All we're saying is if we are Ghanaians, then we should be given the option to help out in the process.
Have you sent a petition to the president?
Oh, interesting, you should ask. Because when the president came to New York in September 2014, I met with him and I asked the question about the implementation of ROPAA. And his response was that it is the duty of the Electoral Commission to implement, just as Act 699 says. That was followed up by a meeting that the president had in Worcester, Massachusetts, a couple of weeks later, or in 2014, where again the question was put to him directly, and also, while we are at it, the question of cost. And the president, I'm talking about President Ibrahim Dramani Mahama John, said that the country, Ghana, will fund it. And also repeated that we should urge.
Urge, that was the exact word.
Those were his words. If you go on PAM's website, we've captured that there. We should urge the Electoral Commission to implement ROPAA. Case closed.
So perhaps we're all going to urge the Electoral Commission
to
implement
we
ROPAA.
just have to caution how Ghanaians use urge. Urge is very casually used around. But when the president says urge, it's a serious urge.
Yeah.
If you guys, you understand me?
So we're following the president.
We are following, absolutely.
I think we'll leave it here. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks
cheers. Did you get everything you ordered? I see.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I'm getting. Is it okay now for me to start enjoying?
Yeah, you can. Okay, so this has been brought to you from the Jackie D Cafe here at East Legon. It's near the Chiropractic Center. They are open all day, all weekend, and so you can come in. I'll finish off my green tea and then we'll talk again.
My refreshing, cooling water.